Many thanks for joining us on KTM Prime. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is William Sila.
20 quarry workers in the county of Mandera were today jailed for 5 months and fined 60,000 shillings each for refusing to leave their workplaces as ordered.
The resident magistrate said that the disobedience put their lives in danger and also threatened security in the county.
Ironically, this came as some teachers held protests here in Nairobi over threats by the government to sack them if they do not go back to northeastern region and continue with their duties.
The 20 quarry workers were stationed at Karo Quarry in Mandera, which is just a few kilometers from Korome Quarry, where at least 38 people were killed in December last year. They have been sentenced to 5 months in prison and fined 60,000 shillings each. Reason being, they refused to leave the area after being ordered by the OCPD to do so for their own safety. But ironically, another tussle involving Mandera was today on the streets of Nairobi as teachers who have refused to go back to Northeastern held protests in the city streets. The teachers in their hundreds staged a demo demanding that the government transfers them to schools in safer regions.
Haisiki ni kama hawahusiki, government pia haihusiki, kwa sababu leo tumeamua lazima tukuje kwenye bunge tuweze kuambia kila mtu ulimwengu huu ya kuwa walimu ambao wanafunza Northeastern tumechoka.
Mtu anaitwa CS, hakuna mambo ya vitisho kwamba atavuta watu. Good. Kama anaamua yeye mwenyewe, acha tuende aona weke ofisi yake kule, akiweka ofisi yake ndio muende.
The teachers say the images of last year's massacre by the Al-Shabaab, where a bus was hijacked near the town of Mandera, remains fresh in their minds. 20 of their colleagues were killed, but both the Mandera County government and the national government have tried several times to assure non-local residents of the wider northeastern region that security has improved. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
Two stories in two different counties, connected and importantly so. The happenings in Mandera form the basis of our big question tonight. We were asking you, do you support the decision by the court to jail the quarry workers for refusing to move out of their workplaces?
Indeed, do you support the court's decision to jail quarry workers who have refused to leave Mandera? Let us know what you think. You can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Linda Ogutu, at Ben_Kitili. We'd love to share your opinion during this bulletin. Now, let's stay with this particular story. Of course, it has a lot of Kenyans talking. In studio, let's speak to Mwenda Mbijiwe. He joins us from our I&M studios. Mwenda, thank you so much. Of course, a contradiction of some sort. You have different leaders saying there is enough security in northeastern Kenya. You have the court jailing quarry workers for refusing to leave Mandera. Does it concern you, Mwenda, that there seems to be confusion over this?
Well, Linda, you're breaking. I didn't hear the question very clearly, but I think there's such an irony today, and it's so clear to Kenyans now the kind of discord and the kind of disunity in the voice of government. If the judiciary could jail Kenyans for not leaving those areas, and then the other part of government telling Kenyans to go back and work in Mandera, it's such an irony.
Mwenda, let me quote what the magistrate said. He said the disobedience put their lives in danger and also threatened security in the county. What does that say about security in Mandera from where you sit?
You see, that's a judicial officer, and judicial officers pass judgment by scrutinizing every evidence available on the ground. And I'll tell you, that judge is not looking for votes, so he can say the truth. Our leaders are looking for votes, and they're trying to play politics into a situation that is already so dangerous for Kenyans. So I would go with the word of the judge as opposed to going by the word of the politicians.
So from your understanding, there isn't enough security in northeastern Kenya, going by what the judge decided today?
Linda, come again please, quickly.
I'm saying, so you believe that there isn't adequate security in northeastern Kenya, of course, if we go by the decision of the magistrate today?
Yes, surely the magistrate has passed the verdict. And this is a judicial officer who has listened to all the evidence on the ground. And so this is very, I would say, a very raw truth and bitter truth that the government must admit there is failure in our national security in the northern frontier.
Here's the thing though, Mwenda. Teachers were supposed to have gone back to northeastern Kenya as per the directive of the Teacher Service Commission. As a matter of fact, that deadline lapsed yesterday. They maintained there isn't adequate security. Do you think, if you've been following this story, I'm sure you have, that teachers have a genuine concern?
Well, Linda, to be honest, to ask our teachers to go to such a situation, to do or rather to carry out their duties in a situation where there is, danger to their lives. I mean, I think we need a better approach than the current approach to get the teachers to go back to work. And I really wish government good luck in threatening the teachers, but I do not think the teachers really are keen to do that job anymore. They feel their lives are in danger.
Wanda, finally, before I let you go, let's look at solutions. We have assurances from different government officials, of course leaders from northeastern Kenya as well. It doesn't seem to be working. Essentially, from our security point, what should be done? One, to ensure security in northeastern Kenya, and to give the civil servants who are working there the assurance really that they will be safe once they go back there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, government can get on an offensive and quickly try to reassure the teachers and the people, the Kenyans that are not originally from the northern frontier, because we have many civil servants there. We have police, I mean, they're from other parts of Kenya. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have all manner of people working there. The government can go on the offensive, first of all, to reassure them. I know they have tried, but I think they are missing something. They must work with these workers' unions to assure these people that they will guarantee their security, and then guarantee the security so that the judge does not have to order people to go to jail, but would have to order people to go to work and be arrested if you don't go to the quarry. And the opposite. It's such an irony,
Mwenda Mbijiwe speaking to us from our I&M studios. Thank you so much, Mwenda. Of course, let's keep this conversation alive on Twitter at KTN Kenya, at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu. It also forms the basis of a big question tonight. We're asking, do you support the court's decision to jail quarry workers for refusing to leave Mandera? 20 of them were jailed today. Let us know what you think. Now, county governors have once again put on the table their demand for a 45% allocation from the national budget. The Council of Governors has begun its talks with the Commission on Revenue Allocation and Treasury to reach an agreement over how much counties should receive. As KTN's Asha Mwilu now reports, the meeting is also aimed at resolving the perennial delay of funds meant for salaries for county government staff.
At a consultative meeting between governors, representatives of the Senate, the Commission for Revenue Allocation and Treasury, everyone wore their game face.
We hold the question till they are out of the room.
But the discussion on just how much of the national cake counties would get was held behind closed doors. After the day-long deliberations, CRA and Treasury were yet to be convinced to grant counties the 45% allocation they've been asking for.
CRA is recommending a total of 347 billion. The Treasury, is looking at a total of 274. That's almost 100 billion difference between the two.
The idea is to try and negotiate and hopefully narrow the differences in positions between all these stakeholders, so that we agree on this matter of allocation in a way that is less acrimonious than we've seen in the past.
With a flickering light at the end of the tunnel, governors are keeping their plan B intact in case CRA's formula doesn't favor them.
If we had 45% of the last accounts, the latest accounts, for example, last year, which was 996 times 45% is 414, we would have no problem. But we understand that the current law talks differently. We know that. That is why we were talking about a referendum to change the law, because the law allows what is happening now. But we think something better can be done.
Although they are throwing their weight behind governor's push for more money, senators have one warning for the county bosses.
Providing resources is one thing, but utilizing the resources is also another thing. And I think for the Senate, one of the key concerns really is the prudence, financial prudence and financial discipline in the counties, how county governments spend their money. That has been a major concern, and actually it plays out negatively when you are looking for money, more money, and then the reports that come out are not very favorable in many counties.
Last year, the Senate amended the County Allocation of Revenue Act, compelling county governments to direct at least 40% of their county funds towards development projects. Initially, the law mandated governors to spend at least 30% on development. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Let's now move to the county of Samburu, where 90 people are currently receiving medical attention in the county of a severe food poisoning. The 90 that include small children are said to have eaten meat from a cow that died as a result of disease. Betty Kialo reports.
It was a nearly fatal indulgence. Residents of Lolokoibor in Samburu County left for hospital one after the other. Some too frail to walk.
Ng'ombe amekufa na amesemekana amedunga berno na turmasi. Mpaka watu nakula hiyo nyama, baadaye amekuwa watu wote amekuwa mgonjwa.
According to local leaders, the more than 90 people had eaten meat from a cow that had died due to illness. The cow is said to have been undergoing treatment from the community's animal clinical officer. It, however, died during treatment.
Na watu wengi wakawa wagonjwa. Niliweza kuconfirm katika health center ya Suguta Malmal na pia Kisima Health Center, ambaye Kisima kuna wagonjwa 32 na pia Suguta iko wagonjwa 40.
The victims, who include children, are still receiving treatment at Suguta and Kisima health centers. Officials of the Kenya Red Cross say they have set up a medical camp in the area to cater to emergency cases as the number of those affected continues to rise. Betty Kialo, KTN.
The political class in the country appears to be divided on whether CORD leader Raila Odinga should give evidence at the ICC in defense of Deputy President William Ruto. A proposal to have Raila testify was first fronted by Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. And as KTN's Aaron Ochieng now reports, Raila's acceptance to testify has caught the Jubilee side by surprise.
Please be seated.
The ongoing ICC trial for Deputy President William Ruto and former radio presenter Joshua Sang is entering a crucial stage where the defense lawyers will start presenting their defense evidence, but not before a status conference for a no case is heard and determined. But if the no case to answer bid by the defense flops, one name that Ruto may be looking forward to be enlisted among his defense witnesses would be that of CORD leader Raila Odinga.
If there is something I'm willing to sit with Raila Odinga face to face, is for him to tell the country and the world that William Ruto is an innocent man because he was campaigning for ODM.
Murkomen's argument is that since the case was filed against ODM members at that time, it would only be prudent for the former Prime Minister, who is also the ODM party leader, to come to the defense of Ruto and Sang.
Hii kesi ilikuwa kesi ya chama yako. Chama yenye imebaki head peke yake ni chama ya ODM yenye bado inamenshoniwa kwa head.
As ODM, we never at any time planned violence. Neither did we plan to do harm to any sections of Kenyan community as such.
Raila has made it clear that he holds no grudge against the Deputy President, and should he be asked to testify in Ruto's case, then he would gladly do so.
If I am asked to testify, I am willing and ready to testify on behalf of my party, the Orange Democratic Movement.
But political pundits are questioning the validity of this new twist in the case, the argument being, why would Ruto need Raila to exonerate himself, and why is Raila too willing to testify?
He has hired very able lawyers at the ICC, and the lawyers are doing their job. And If this case is going to collapse, it will be because of the efforts of his lawyers.
Be that as it may, a section of Jubilee leaders are again developing cold feet over Raila's willingness to testify for Ruto. Meru woman MP Florence Kajuju is advising the Deputy President to snub Raila's offer. She argues that Ruto does not need Raila's help since he has competent defense team. ODM Secretary General Babu Namwamba, however, argues that their leader's move to make public his decision to testify vindicates him against accusations by Jubilee's side that he fixed Ruto and others who had appeared at the Hague-based court. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
Mixed reactions of Raila's offer to testify. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC has sworn in its new Secretary and Chief Executive Officer.
Ezra Chiloba Simiyu has officially taken over from his predecessor, James Oswago, who was unceremoniously forced out of office following a series of controversies.
KTN's Edith Kimani now looks at this recent appointment and what it means for the electoral body that is working to clear a tainted image.
His promise upon taking over office was a familiar one.
Having been appointed Secretary to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, do solemnly swear that I will at all times obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic.
With that, the former deputy team leader at the Department for International Development, or DFID, became the IEBC's new Chief Executive Officer.
And exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue
a brand new appointment that has had the ironic effect of digging up IEBC's recent past. A past whose protagonist is a former electoral body's CEO, James Oswago, who was suspended and later removed from office last year over a 1.3 billion shillings tender scandal.
Why don't we wait until the trial is over? Supposing all these things are dismissed during the trial, are nothing but just allegations.
IEBC was quick to distance itself from the alleged actions of its former CEO, but it soon found itself in another controversy, the Chicken Gate scandal. In the scandal, top IEBC officials were adversely mentioned in a British case for allegedly receiving kickbacks from one of their British vendors to win contracts to supply ballot papers. But for IEBC, the Chicken Gate scandal and Oswago's alleged transgressions appeared to be water under the bridge.
We as commissioners and members of staff in the commission are committed to helping him ensure that he fulfills his mandate and leads the Secretariat in implementing the vision of the commission in delivering a credible election.
I look forward to working with a professional team of staff that is enabled to do its work and do it well.
Promises that are crucial for the IEBC given their entry this quarter with Homa Bay and Kajiado Central by-elections around the corner. This new appointment may act as a fresh start for the IEBC, but whether or not Kenyans still trust the electoral body is anyone's guess. For Simiyu, his career, like that of his predecessor, has begun with a familiar, albeit tough promise to keep.
So help me God.
Edith Kimani, KTN.
The Council of Governors has come to the defense of Narok Governor Samuel Tunai. The chairperson of the Council of Governors, Isaac Ruto, says the ongoing dispute in Narok has little to do with money. And the governors are linking the protests by Narok residents to a power struggle between the various communities living in the county.
What I know is locally happening in Narok is that there is a contest. There has been a contest all along between communities that are in Narok who are basically competing for political power. And a certain arrangement delivered Governor Tunai and his group onto the city Narok. And his opponents have never rested. They went to court so many times. They went to court. They did not succeed in court. They have threatened the county. And some of the demands are very strange indeed, because what is coming out of the press is about money. It's not really money. That's what is only coming out to you. But what is on the ground is about communities and the power.
Okay, so this is a story that should be of concern to every single Kenyan. more Kenyans could be dying of cancer than previously thought, says Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia. Macharia, who today swore in the board of the National Cancer Institute of Kenya, also announced that the government will on Friday adopt a project to dedicate 21 billion shillings to the acquisition of cancer treatment equipment for public hospitals. Sharon Momanyi has the details.
At their home in Kaaga, Meru County, Mary Wathanu is busy carrying out her usual household chores. But usual is far from what Mary's life has been. 14 years ago, she was diagnosed with leukemia. At the time, the diagnosis itself sounded something like a death sentence to the then Class 8 pupil.
Diagnosis was done here at Meru, but my treatment was further in Nairobi. It was a challenge for us because we didn't have ways to get there. We had to be assisted by friends, family, and also relatives, and also community.
But the family would soon forge ahead, taking Mary for treatment at the MP Shah Hospital in Nairobi, where she underwent a surgery to remove a tumor from her stomach. For 6 months, she stayed at the hospital undergoing chemotherapy and radiotherapy.
Na chemotherapy nayo inakuwa ni ya pesa mingi. Sasa sisi hapo tukaanza kukua kila kitu, tukauza, tukatafuta pesa kwa watu, na ikawa ni challenge kubwa sana.
Mary has lived to tell her story. Statistics indicate that about 22,000 cancer patients in the country do not.
Cancer kills 8 million every year. So whereas the globe, the international institutions, the World Bank, WHO have focused all the resources, attention to West Africa, which is a good thing, they must also reflect on these numbers.
Currently, the country does not keep comprehensive data on cancer deaths and cancer patients due to weaknesses in data collection capacity. Thousands of Kenyans spend billions every year to seek cancer treatment abroad. Majority of cancer patients cannot afford medical care, which is actually largely inaccessible due to scarce equipment and oncologists in the country. According to the Cabinet Secretary, the care burden is about to get easier. He says the government is expected to sign a 38 billion shilling deal with multinational organizations this Friday for the supply of critical medical equipment to public health institutions. Macharia says the deal will see all kinds of equipment supplied to 2 hospitals in each of the 47 counties. Out of the 38 billion shillings from the deal, 21 billion will be specifically dedicated to the acquisition of cancer treatment equipment, coming hand in hand with a plan to have expert attention available to all Kenyans.
We have created a very special structure with General Electric, whereby we shall have centers of excellence. The few experts we have, the oncologists we have in the country, will be located in those centers of excellence. But the machines will be located in remote areas in the counties. And the clinical officers will be able to take those images in the counties, and those images electronically transferred or transmitted to the centers of excellence, which will be manned by expert oncologists.
Macharia was speaking at the swearing-in of the board of the National Cancer Institute of Kenya. The Media Owners Association chairman Sam Sholei reiterated the importance of creating public awareness about cancer as a first step of curbing it.
So the media can play a big role sensitizing the public about the effects of cancer, about the need to go to hospital frequently, and it is recommended every year that people should check themselves to make sure that if there is cancer that has manifested in them, it is detected early so that it can be treated.
Tomorrow the world marks Cancer Day 2015 under the tagline, Not Beyond Us. At a national level, the plan to decentralize facilities and expert care is one that will see strides achieved in the Kenyan fight against cancer. Only patients will still be hoping that soon the cost of this care will not be beyond them. Sharon Momanyi, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, the Senate Committee on Security was this afternoon forced to hold two separate fact-finding meetings in Kapedo with the Turkana and Pokot communities.
The meeting, which was supposed to be a joint one, had to quickly be reorganized after each side refused to air their grievances in the presence of the other.
KTN's Kamcha Menza tells us what transpired as each group tabled its evidence claiming ownership of Kapedo.
Tuesday morning, a joint meeting between the Pokots and Turkana in the presence of leaders from both counties before the Senate Security Committee had been scheduled.
The Senate will be available to do a meeting with them. This is our Kapedo. This meeting will be for Turkanas only. We are not ready to be in the same meeting.
We can't also allow them to do their meeting with the Pokot in our territory.
Unless. But it was not to be. The communities refused to sit together to air their grievances. The issue here being ownership of Kapedo.
Kapedo area, where we lost quite a number of officers. The Senate have given the task of a select committee of national security to come here on a fact-finding mission.
And so the committee had to listen to one group first, then the other, starting with the Turkanas, tabling its memorandum and evidence over claims of Kapedo ownership.
Wale watu wako na kipande. Sisi tuko na ID ya Kapedo. Ningependa mkienda kule upande mwingine muonyeshe hii Kapedo ID yao ni gani na walipata lini. Kwa hivyo bado hapo sisi tunaelekeza kidole chetu kwa wale wanapeana IDs, kwa sababu hauwezi peana ID kwa imaginary center.
But as the Pokot headed to hold their meeting, the Turkanas seemed to have a plan to disrupt the meeting.
Hii ndio tulikuwa tunakata naye kodi. Na Turkana walikuwa na yao, hii ni ya Kapedo West.
But we feel that with you being here with us, we will see justice being done. And let me reiterate completely on behalf of all our leaders, we are not advocating on removing anybody from here. No. We want to stay as brothers and sisters as one. But we want to be administered from where we are always administered, and that is from Baringo Council.
At the end of the meeting, the Senate Committee on Security, however, concluded by saying that the recommendations will be out in a month's time, urging the communities to live in harmony.
So we are going to study all these documents and read the maps, go to the archives and get more information so that we can advise the government on the way forward in addressing the insecurity in this area.
Kamcha Menza, KTN from Baringo County.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to KTN Business. You're just in time for the day's business news. My name is Abi Agina. The government has hired global professional services firm Deloitte as the lead transaction advisor for the construction of the second Nyali Bridge. The team will be tasked with undertaking a feasibility study, preparing tendering documents and advising on procurement of the project. The move comes at a time congestion in the coastal town has become a major challenge and the second bridge is expected to ease movement on the island. Currently, the Mombasa Island is connected to the northern mainland by the one bridge that has been stretched to capacity as the population has grown. Deloitte expects the first part of the feasibility study to take about 6 months and have the procurement of the project undertaken thereafter. Construction of the bridge will be undertaken through the public-private partnership model, where the private sector will finance, implement and maintain the project for an agreed period of time. A toll station is expected to be set up on the bridge to allow the investor to recoup the investment.
Government is extremely keen to see it happen as quickly as possible. And government is keen to compress the timelines as much as possible. So we will be working with all parties within government, whether that be national or county, to deliver it within those timelines. We're going to be going out, as I think I mentioned earlier, to talk to the market, to make sure that the market is comfortable with what we're proposing.
And as the population has grown, and the fact that again there's a lot of investment in the north coast, there's need to actually do another major bridge for purpose of ensuring that the trade within this area can be enhanced. That's the more reason why then we have to get to do a new one in addition to the one that had already been done. That also answers the question of where is it going to pass through.
Well, and now to that question that Linda Ogutu asked earlier. Stakeholders in the film industry are in the process of developing a bill that will turn around the sector's fortune. The new policy is expected to set a platform for the industry by making Kenya a competitive film production hub for both local and international movies by connecting producers to financiers. And as KTN's Charles Gitonga reports, this is expected to be an advantage for an industry that has for years lagged behind.
Kenya's film industry is worth an estimated 4 billion shillings and employs more than 15,000 people. These figures, however, are not reflective of the vibrant industry this one could be if well supported. Its potential spreads past 40 billion shillings in worth, and the sector can create up to 250,000 jobs. The current status of the industry has been as a result of various factors, among them the high cost of producing films in the country. This has made Kenya uncompetitive against other African nations such as Nigeria and South Africa, where talent is well supported by regulatory and financial resources.
There's a film policy being developed which is trying to address the issues, especially many filmmakers feel Kenya is more expensive than, say, South Africa.
The high investment that producers have to pump into production originates from taxation on equipment and services offered to producers. This has been enhanced further by the devolved system of governance, where filmmakers are prone to paying taxes in every county they shoot in. However, stakeholders are now engaging the National Treasury on possible zero rating of film production as one of the measures to revive the sector.
We cannot attract big films in Kenya if we continue having very high taxations and discouraging people through that.
Also in the offing to add a spark of life into the industry is the ongoing renovation of Kenya National Theatre in Nairobi at a cost of 100 million shillings, which comes to an end next month. The government is also on course with plans to establish a film school aimed at developing talent for the industry. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Well, moving on, the government is set to introduce radical measures that will penalize road contractors delaying road projects. According to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, contractors found to be dragging projects will be blacklisted and fined in an effort to fast-track development. Some contractors were found to be delaying projects for a period of between 8 months and 1 year after the signing of their contract, contrary to regulation that requires the contractors to commence the projects 28 days after signing. The Kenya banking sector continues to defy odds as it accelerates to newer heights. The Central Bank's 2014 credit survey shows that profits during the year grew by 13.47%, aided by increasing lending during the year. There is, however, growing concern for non-performing loans in 2015, with foreseeable shocks to certain sectors. Here's more on that story. Credit expansion in the country is largely seen as a positive indicator to economic growth. In 2014, commercial banks lent an estimated 1.9 trillion shillings, which marked 22.85% growth from 1.6 trillion shillings a year earlier. The growth was marked despite a high interest rate regime ranging from between 17 to 22%, despite the introduction of several tools to coerce banks to lower their rates.
The demand actually increased, and one of the things that prices do in an economy, and the interest rate is no different from that, is it helps in allocating resources.
This inevitably saw interest income grow by 16.3% to 245 billion shillings, contributing largely to the sector's 141 billion shillings gross profits for the period. As the debate rages on what an ideal interest regime would be, observers point out the high cost of funds as a key tool the central bank ought to tackle.
If interest rates had stayed where they are and borrowing was dipping, then there'll be an issue. But if interest rates are where they are and borrowing is increasing, then I think we're in a good place.
Data from the Central Bank of Kenya recent credit officer report indicates that the country's agricultural and tourism sectors registered high rates of non-performing loans in 2014 that are likely to carry on in the new year. Analysts note that whereas banks' profits have been on the upswing, very few have transferred the benefits of an improved economic environment to consumers by lowering lending rates. Observers attribute the new level of profitability to the relative stability of interest rates, which ought to be passed on to investors.
For me, agriculture being a huge sector in the economy is a bit worrying. Real estate, I think there's been talk about it for a while now.
Among the key aspects that have made borrowing rather high for consumers, according to the survey, range from retention of the central bank reference rate at 8.5%, political risk, internal financing, and issuance of debt security. Workers at G4S security firm have signed a recognition agreement that will see the workers get additional perks under their terms of service. Among the new term is a medical cover and an education cover. Speaking during the signing of the agreement earlier today, G4S's managing director noted that as a company they were keen on maintaining sound industrial relationships with its staff and affiliate unions representing workers in the private security sector. The agreement will also see staff at the firm be entitled to engaging in collective bargaining agreements. The nature of industrial relations have over time become rather antagonistic, and more companies are opting to accord their staff the rights to join representative unions. Well, let's now take a look at the financial report.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. I'm Lynn Washira. The Nairobi International Junior Tennis Championships entered day 2 today with a host of participants recording mixed results. Top seed Innocent Tidimane from Botswana showcased his strength as he outclassed Frank Menadi from Tanzania in 2 sets of 6-2 and 6-3. Kenya's Kevin Cheriot, who lost last week's East African Junior Championships final, could not break Burundi's Mohamed Omar as he lost in sets of 4-6, 7-5 and 6-3. In the doubles category, Kenyan pair of Judith Mora and Faith Nyabera fell to Vicky Gurinix and Lexi Stevens from the Netherlands. Despite a dismal start to the competition by Kenyan players, the organizers feel the tournament is contributing a great deal to the development of the sport in the country.
Normally our players don't get a chance to travel in European countries. So if we get European players coming to our country, playing our players, it updates our standard of tennis, which is very good for Kenya.
And defending Masaku Rugby Sevens champions Tabadamu from Fiji are expected to put their title on the line during the tournament's 4th edition in June this year. The organizers are planning to host about 36 teams during the 2-day competition. Elsewhere, the Nairobi County Super 8 soccer tournament is set to return after taking a 3-year break.
The annual Super 8 tournament that had taken a 3-year break is back. The winner of this year's Super 8 will pocket $500,000 shillings. First runners-up 250,000 shillings, while the second runners-up will go home with 100,000 shillings. The convener of the tournament, Hussein Mohammed, says he's yet to acquire the tournament license from Football Kenya Federation and that he is still scouting for a sponsor. Hussein, who lost FKF elections in 2011, clarified that the return of the tournament is not linked to a similar exercise set for October this year.
I've been doing at the grassroots for some clubs you might not know. So it's not a fair statement to say we've not been doing anything for football, because you might not be privy to most of the work that we've done at the grassroots level.
The organizers target 90 teams from all the 17 constituencies in Nairobi County. The tournament will be played on knockout basis over the weekends, parallel to the top flight league.
We don't intend to interfere, but we'll move on with the fixtures.
In rugby, the 4th edition of the annual Masaku Rugby 7 was unveiled in Machakos on Tuesday. The tournament acquired international status after a team from Fiji competed and won last year's trophy. The county of Machakos is using the tournament to market itself as a sports tourism destination.
It is our duty to try to support those who are ready to identify such talents and to see how we can promote them.
The Fijian team will be in Nairobi in June to defend its title. Tambusoro Angels women's team from Norway, Oslo Rugby Club, Edinburgh Aces, French Bibanos, Berabera from Spain, Boyne Wright from Ireland, and Claire Dunn from Argentina are some of the foreign teams that have shown interest in this year's event. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
You're watching KTN Prime. Just before we go home, let's remind you of our big question tonight. We're asking you, do you support the court's decision to jail quarry workers for refusing to leave Mandera?
Big story there. One story from 2 counties. That is how you polled tonight. And Kennedy Abulala says verdict on the quarry workers, very interesting twist to the security of Northeastern. It gives teachers boycott of Northeastern relevance.
Okay, I have a tweet from Abiba Ali Malim. She says we need to correct this. The order they defied was to leave the site to go to villages at night and not leave Mandera.
Mohammed Walia says 20 quarry workers jailed for refusing to leave Koromei. Quarry teachers risk sacking for refusing to go to Koromei Primary School, Mesopotamia.
Atsuma Kodingo says a government should never ask its people to leave an area because of insecurity. That's tantamount to relinquishing claim over that area.
And Fawz Khalid says the executive wants teachers to go back to Mandera County. The judiciary thinks otherwise.
Those are your opinions. Those are your tweets. We thank you for participating in our big question. Let's call it a night.
Yes, many thanks for joining us on the program tonight. I'm Ben Kitili. Have a good night.
I'm Linda Goto. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.